Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Azoh, and today we're gonna do kind of like a podcast video. This will be the second one I've ever done, and the first one was actually rather well received, so I thought, why not? It was fun anyway, so. With me here, I have a viewer, and would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey there, my name's Clive, and I'm a Z player and a viewer of you. It's an honor to be here, and I'm looking forward to talking about some of the things we've got in store.
Right. So I was thinking about today we're gonna talk about mainly lethality and maybe touch a little bit on the tank meta that's been around for like 3 years, maybe even more than that. And but before that, when you said you play Zed, but when did you start playing League?
I started playing back towards the end of season three. I think the newest release champion around about that time was Aatrox.
Hmm.
I played casually with a friend after being introduced to the game, and then roughly about season four, I started playing ranked and found when One for All came in for the first time, I found Zed and he became a champion of mine.
Hmm.
And I obviously, was looking around for guides and stuff, and discovered you and a couple of other YouTubers about Zed, and from there, I just, fell in love with the champion.
Nice. What's your current elo, and what's
Oh,
your peak?
my peak was Platinum 1. I was very close to Diamond. It was unfortunate I didn't make it. Currently, I am in Platinum 3,
Hmm.
and I'm on my way back to try and attain Diamond, and hopefully, by the end of the season, hit Master Tier.
All right. Well, let's hope it goes well for you. So, as for lethality, do you kind of? It was interesting that they introduced it. I'm kind of okay with the idea of lethality, where they say, "Look, arm penetration kind of gets a little bit out of control, so we want to have it a little bit weaker early game and then kind of gradually get stronger." So that idea, I was kind of against the idea at the start, but as I think about it, it's decent because there's kind of like, I don't want to say quality control, but there's kind of like a control of armor, because later on, if people have enough armor, it does mitigate a lot of the damage. But the way it turned out, it really surprised me because you were able to get so much lethality so quickly that it didn't matter if you only had 60% of it, or even going up to 80% of it, because it was so much. So, what do you think went wrong with? I mean, I don't want to say went wrong, but why do you think it went the way it went?
Well, I agree with you. Like the amount you got was quite much for what it was and what it did. In general, when they were bringing in the changes, it did look iffy, and they started out at 40%, which was kind of underwhelming
Yeah,
because you'd normally get beaten out by pretty much an arm guard, which obviously for most AD mids who are against a mid mage with an arm guard normally should be able to at least keep up.
yeah,
So when they increased the amount to 60, because they increased the amount to 60 and you had so many like sources and ways of getting it, by your first like even component like a Dirk or something, you would just you'd almost like make the arm guard completely irrelevant for the mage, and it just went from being quite underwhelming to very overpowering. So a lot of the time people just ran full lethality runes and stuff.
yeah.
I think it went a bit wrong in a way, as you said, like obviously not completely wrong, but
Right, right.
um, it became a bit out of control with the masteries and the percent damages you received and all of the like stats you could get from your runes. Even though it made your level ones to six weaker, by the time you hit level six and you had your full combo, you pretty much could just overpower pretty much any opponent.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I mean, I think the 40% to 60% is definitely a huge increase. But I think what the effect of that mainly was that more people tried it out, and it became a thing. Because I'm thinking, even if you had 40% right now, if you went back to all the same old values on lethality, on runes, on masteries, on all the items having the same amount, and Edge Knight being as strong as it was, and Yoma's having 20 and all of that, I think it still would be really, really good. Because right now, I think lethality is in a pretty well balanced spot as it is right now. Possibly, maybe a little bit on the underpowered side even, mainly because Edge Knight just kind of got gimped a little bit on its active. And Yomu's, I don't know, I'm not sure if I agree with the extra nerf from Yomu's really, but yeah, sorry, did you want to?
No. I was wanting to agree with that point. The extra nerf on Yomu's was a bit excessive, but I will totally. I'm not going to deny at all. Edge of Night was a ridiculously strong item.
Yeah.
It gave magic resistance, which every AD like needed in general, because as again mages were strong and a lot of like laners, even though like in the game you've got certain champions who do only AD, like everyone has kind of almost a mixed damage normally in normal team comps and team setups, so magic resistance always comes in handy. It gave 60 AD, it gave a spell shield which lasted for 10 seconds, and the only drawback was you had to channel it for like a second and a half.
Yeah, I mean, the duration and all that, it was kind of like a more toxic... do you remember Maw and Hex Drinker? Like back in the day when Maw gave you armor penetration? It was so stupid. You'd buy it. If they had any AP champion, you'd buy Maw like first item. When I realized that, I like climbed 3 division because it was so good, right? There was no reason not to do it, because basically what you're saying is you're going to win any trade versus an AP champion, and you're not slowing down, because the only way you're slowing down is that you're not getting CDR. And now they made Edge and Knight, which is, sure, if you compensate with CDR on blues, which you'd normally take MR potentially on, so if you take CDR there instead, then you'd have the CDR compensation. You get lethality, you get a ton of AD, you get MR, and you get the fact that your engage cannot be stopped. At least Maw never had that. Maw had that you were very good in duels and prolonged fights, but a Quinn with Edge of Night flying into you with all the extra movement speed from lethality, and you can't be like, well, I need to hit the first spell, so I need to think about my first spell to remove her shield, then I need to think about the second spell actually hitting her and stunning her. It's like, this is never gonna work. So yeah, I'm really glad. I'm actually pretty glad that they did go with the change on Edge of Night, because not even with that, even if you got the shield, I mean, the cooldown was so low before that, yeah, she's gonna come back 20 seconds later, and the same thing is gonna happen again. So I don't know. I'm really digging the Duskblade, and I've liked the Duskblade throughout the entire process. It's possibly my favorite passive right now. I think the Night Stalker thing is really interesting, and how we can play around ward vision and such. But maybe they went a little bit wrong somewhere there, because they went from what are we doing to we just accidentally made one of the strongest metas.
Yeah, they did. I think because of the fact that those items just had such great synergy, with, like, as you said, the Quinn being able to come at you at, Mach 10 with, like, a protection veil, which you have to hit her twice, essentially, to get her off of a bird. It's just, with champions like Quinn, Talon, all of these champions who can move around the map, having the ability to detect wards and cancel them, also having a passive where you do true damage based upon your lethality and a flat amount, with a spell shield which had a short cooldown, and a Yomu's Ghostblade which just made them get there even faster.
Right.
It was just the combination of those 3 items kind of was a bit excessive, because of the fact that, yes, 2 items, like say for example the Yomu's and the Duskblade, they're perfectly fine, and I don't mind playing against that, or I'm pretty sure people don't mind playing against those 2 items.
Right.
But when those 3 items were all strong at the same time, and Yomu's has been a staple for assassins and AD champions for a while, it just gave too much power to these champions who are supposed to obviously be powerful in the early game, but not supposed to be so powerful that it didn't even matter that other champions were in the game, because of how ridiculous their base damage is, plus lethality was with it. Exactly.
And I mean, maybe we have that to thank for the fact that we have a prolonged tank meta and everyone buying Ninja Tabi. I think it's fascinating that we somehow managed to have a full AD assassin meta and attack meta at the same time. Because the tank meta was kind of to mitigate, like, it came back a little bit hard because it mitigated the lethality. Because if you had 300 armor, yeah, that 90 armor penetration or armor, like, reduction, not reduction, but like ignoring that armor yeah, it's whatever. You have 210 armor left, so but I don't know. It's it's strange that so many people also ignored just cloth armor because it even Ninja Tabi haven't been changed for a while, right? So it's strange that it took people so long to figure out that a single cloth armor, removes the armor penetration of Yomu's as it is right now. I think Skara mentioned this, that people greed so much they don't want to go off their normal builds because that 300 gold that's getting me closer to my IE. Like I can't really sacrifice that. But the fact is that it would give you so much survivability so easily. I mean, and for most champions, your boot choice isn't that cornerstone. It isn't that fundamental. Most champions can kind of be a little bit flexible. So I don't know if people had figured that out earlier, if we still would have had as strong items. It's very possible because honestly, even like Quinn would have received such a reduction in damage if everyone bought Ninja Tabi like they do right now.
That is true. Ninja Tabi's has been strong, and it does, reduce 12% of just like auto attack damage.
Yeah.
So if people did realize that, it worked well against lethality users, maybe it might have been different. I think people were more stuck in the old glory days of like Swifties and Merc Treads being like the most, impactful boots.
Yeah, definitely.
Didn't think of this, they're AD dealing champions, they have auto attack damage and all these kind of things. Maybe buying armor boots would be a good investment. On the AD carry side of things, I can see as to why AD carriers would not want to lean against it because they're thinking, well, I'm probably gonna die anyway if they're allowed
Yeah.
to kill me.
I mean, for AD carries, it's a bit more understandable, I suppose.
Yeah.
But then again, they got a bone benefit from the lethality as well. I mean, you see basically all the AD carries buying lethality as well. We got Varus has had his best year ever.
Varus came pretty much out of the ashes from, I think it was round about season 5 mid meta.
Yeah.
And Jhin, of course, Jhin powerhouse. You give Jhin any kind of a buff, and he's going to be disgusting for a couple of patches.
Definitely. I mean, it's interesting how quickly that changed from Bork getting 15 more AD, and now we have full attack speed, full Bork, like no lethality at all, Varus. He went from the insane full lethality sniping to just auto attacks with a 1580 buff and like a lethality nerf. It's crazy that he's still so good. Again, I guess it also has to do with
very good right now. I was surprised when I tried out a certain build type on Varus, which was the build running around for Ashe.
Mm-hmm.
If you've seen it, it's the Bork Ruan's Black Cleaver build.
Oh, that's interesting.
Basically, because of the way like Varus is now and his reset on his Q cooldown, just shredding with your Blight passive and your auto attacks and your ability to CC pretty much one up to 5 targets if they stand all on top of each other in solo queue. That happens quite often. So you'll get a couple of targets CC'd and it shreds people quite fast. So with that and further, it has been a nice like transition for Varus. It hasn't actually put Varus, into the dumpster where I thought when lethality and Deathfire's touch would get nerfed, he would be pretty bad.
Yeah, I was afraid of that too. And I think it's really cool that he's still relevant. I mean, people complain that they see Jhin and Varus every game, but I mean, where was Varus for 4 years, dude? We have barely seen any Varus at all. So I think it's fine that he gets some spotlight. And I found it interesting the Q nerf they did, or the Q change they did, where you get back when you, as you said, when you proc the W, you get back or you reduce a certain flat amount of seconds, because that means with if it went for 6 seconds to 10 seconds and you had 4% CDR, that's a 2.6% or 2.6 second decrease with the 40% CDR, as opposed to a 4-second decrease. So you're basically gaining 1.6 seconds.
Yeah, of course.
Which is interesting.
And that's always valuable. Valuable. But yes, a lot of the champions went through a lot of changes when they, edited up the Deathfires and the lethality and all of the mastery trees and everything. Honestly, one of the big changes for me on the mastery tree, I just found it was kind of like pointless running Battle Trance and Bounty Hunter now.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that Battle Trance, obviously, it builds up over 3 seconds, but in the state the game is now, in 3 seconds, you will either die or still be alive, but need to leave the fight.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
we both play Zed, you know, the ultimate.
exactly. So you want just the flat raw damage immediately, and it helps with obviously early lane pressure and stuff where Zed is supposed to shine
Right.
and all of that stuff. And I've actually been enjoying Bork on Zed recently because I find the 100 damage early was a lot more than what it used to be.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm pretty sure that the magic damage part still goes towards your ult because only true damage doesn't work on your ult.
Yeah, it does. Physical and magic damage, no matter the source, goes towards your ultimate. That's why there are some very, very eccentric builds that my viewers want me to test. Specifically AP said, which is like, but look here, if you get a Lich Bane, and I just kind of zone it out after there because I know that people. And then we're talking about, well, if you get enough magic penetration, your passive does magic damage. And I'm thinking, okay, well, you can get enough AP and also get magic penetration and then get a Lich Bane, which means you get efficiency, and then you can get a Sunfire Cape, meaning you can get more magic damage when you have, like, yeah, if you really, really want to, I've been hypothesizing this a little bit. If you really, 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 really want to do AP set, there are ways to do it. It's not very good, though.
Or you could just catch this, build normal items, and win the game.
Yeah, but I mean, they would never expect it that way. So I mean, yeah, it's quite fascinating, the entire thing. But I mean, I thought Battle Trance was rather good on Zed at the start, but I'm thinking if I was wrong because mainly what you're saying is 3 seconds. You have to wait that long duration until you actually get the full damage. And at that point, usually you've used your burst. But what I was thinking was you always get the value on your ultimate. And I think that was more the case when it was up to 5%. Because 3% is kind of underwhelming at that point.
Of course, yeah. 3% is too little in my opinion. Obviously, when it was 5 seconds and you had the whole 5% extra damage, your ult is 3 seconds, so you're pretty much going to spend roughly about 2 to 3 seconds hitting the guy.
Yeah.
So you'll have that. You'll probably have comboed them beforehand, which is about another 1 second. You may have thrown in an auto attack or two. So over the duration, you probably would hit that 5%, and the 5% pop would be good. And it's also, you didn't sacrifice, taking 2.5% extra damage.
Or the fact that you need to, like, build it up with Bounty Hunter. Exactly. Like, over a longer period of time. So, yeah, I get you. I don't know, are you saying that you think that Double-Edged Sword is, like, the best one out of the 3 right now?
Right now, in my opinion.
I think it might be. I mean, the good thing about it, even before with the 2.5% increased damage on yourself, was that it was always active. As opposed to, like, you have to wait 5 seconds, so you have to kill, like, a bunch of different... It was 1.5% per target, right, on the Bounty Hunter, I think.
On Bounty Hunter, yeah.
Yeah, so you could go over 5%, but that's like, you need to get a kill on...
everybody.
Yeah, on everybody. I mean, yeah, if you're playing a champion, sure, you're playing a roaming assassin, but you're still saying that at level 1 and all through laning, you're not going to get any damage increase. Exactly. Which, sure, I mean, the 1.5% or the 5% damage increase, we're not talking about a lot of AD or a lot of HP at lower levels, because of course it's a percentage increase, but then at the same time, they don't have that much HP either, so it's still consistent.
Yeah, it still worked out for earlier on.
Exactly.
Good. But roaming onto Poppy, let's say, for example, because Poppy was like ridiculously strong back then.
Yeah.
The chances you'd kill her, it would be like, do the stars align and does she not completely kill your top lane before you even reach the lane? So getting a kill on each and every member, it was quite tricky. And then, roaming around, yes, but sometimes, the supports just, if they had a Janna or something, pretty popular when you see Zed, you know, Janna, Malzahar.
Yeah, oh god, I'm getting PTSD. Just
All of these champions who just make Zed go, why do I have to run bot lane?
Why do I have the wrong champion, rather? Oh god. I mean, I still think it's so fascinating that we were able to have tank meta for like 4 years and simultaneously go through like assassin metas. Maybe it's hyperbolic to say we've had tank meta for that long, but it really, really feels like it at this point.
Oh, yes, tanks have been around since the dawn of time. Man, I think tanks just the second Cinderhawk came into the game, it was just like, yes, no. We're all here. And everybody, to the point where like Smite TP was like a meta.
Oh yeah, I remember.
It was just the strangest thing, because you'd see like Hecarim, who you hadn't seen in a while, just going top lane and winning every game.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I mean, I remember when Hecarim was a troll pick, so...
Yeah, Hecarim was just like, why did you pick him? Please.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think when Poppy came out, it's the pinnacle of why. Oh, yes. Why do we have this?
Like 8% damage 2 ways on a Q, you stop dashes, you pin people up against walls, you get double magic resistance or whatever in armor, like when you're below 50%.
I mean, that would be okay if she didn't also have so much damage. Yeah. It's insane.
16% if you got clapped by a Q of your maximum percent HP or something like that, or your current or whatever, and it was just too much.
Yeah, it's quite ridiculous. I mean, on that note, why do tanks have that much damage? I mean, the reason, I guess, is the obvious reason that you need a reason to ever hit them. If it was like, if they did no damage and they were even tankier, then yeah, you'd literally just ignore them. But the fact is, right now, you can't ignore them because consistently they deal a lot of damage. So it's this weird spot where how do you even balance that? Because, yeah, another way to do it is taunts, where you have... You literally force someone to attack you with a taunt, but really, that you can't really have the Dota thing where it lasts for 20 fucking seconds. You need to have some kind of incentive to attack the tank. So I guess it's really, really hard to balance tanks in a MOBA. Where you don't have those insane CC durations.
Yeah, tanks are awkward because it's like you have to make sure that they have items which are always kind of more effective than the damage, because tanks, if they ever fall behind, they're not going to be tanky in comparison to the damage dealers. Right. But I think just most of their damage comes from like their items work very well together. Like, regardlessly, you build 2 items on a tank, and that value is incredible.
Yeah.
Having the base stats they do is... The base damage stats they do, I get it, is to be able to, after a while, be able to accumulate damage. But the thing is, I just feel like somewhere Riot just maybe put a bit too high of a value on some of these damage amounts for how tanky they actually are.
Yeah, I think I feel you. I mean, I have no idea what they were thinking with Galio. The rework, just looking at the numbers, it's...
Oh my... I think they even had to gut Galio on the PBE because of how strong they made him.
I mean, I guess it's more fun to have an overtuned champion than to release a really underpowered champion. When is the last, underpowered champion we've seen in release? I can't... maybe Ilaoi, but that was because people...
It was Talia, to be honest.
Yeah,
because
Talia maybe.
Talia was kind of, clunky.
It's possible. I mean, yeah, maybe Azir as well, but I felt he had so much damage. And it was so long ago that I can't remember, but...
Azir was... He was strange on release, because he was a powerhouse, but you had to know too much about him to do anything.
Yeah.
But then when people figured out about him, people realized he was too strong. And then just the whole chain of Azir being put into uselessness.
It was also so freaking bugged. It was insane how bugged it was.
I think Bjergsen 3 matches in a row found a different bug with Azir. Pro play at some point.
Oh man. Oh, don't even get me started on Aurelion Sol. I think Aurelion Sol is the most failed champion they've ever released.
that cosmic lizard, he made so many people like suffer from rage and like PTSD. Seeing Aurelion Sol's face in your game, it got to a point where you're like, which champion do I pick against him? He pushes me in level 1. He outroams me level 3.
Yeah,
he can completely 100 to 0 me level 6.
The problem with Aurelion Sol, I think, I mean, I know there are counter picks like TF and such where you can stop his balls, you can follow the roam and such, but my problem with him, especially as like kind of like a melee champion, is that you have no choice. You have, if he gets into range with his balls, you have to fight. If you keep running, he rushes Swifties. He's going to be faster than you. You're going to get hit by every single ball. And that means every single time you get a new corrupting stack. And then thunders. And then more spell. It's like, you have no choice. And it's the most frustrating thing to deal with. So I think right now, I think Aurelion Sol and possibly Katarina is the worst matchups for me. Katarina because I just don't understand how to play level 2 against her. And Aurelion Sol because there's no champion in the game like that. There doesn't exist a champion that says you have to fight. You have no other choice.
You have to fight me. You have no choice. The second these balls start touching you, you have to either come and fight me in melee range, or you have to just fight me from Zeref's range away.
Yeah. I mean, the alternative is that you waste your W and then bye-bye 22-second cooldown, your only escape, your only engage, your only poke. At that point, he shoves you into turret every single time. And the worst part about that whole poke thing is the fact that he is pushing and farming at the same time.
Exactly.
While doing that.
He's got it all.
He's got it all. Oh, it's so frustrating.
Weird. And he builds this pseudo-tanky build, which just makes him incredibly hard to kill as well.
Yeah, he has the, what's it called, the prototype thing.
The GLP with, some people build Banshees.
Yeah.
Some people, building Zonyas, all these kind of like items. Rayla is staple on him.
Oh, it's disgusting.
All of these tanky AP items, which just make him so much harder to kill.
Yeah.
While also having such like presence. The only downside to Aurelion Sol, I feel, is that obviously he's got a pretty steep learning curve, because obviously when you play him for the first couple of times, you're like, wait, what does this do?
Yeah, of course.
What's my like ranges? All this kind of stuff. It kind of makes you wonder how he actually works at first.
Yeah.
But against anyone who's played him enough to know what to do with him, he provides so much pressure. It's ridiculous. He pushes you in, and if your jungler is ever spotted by theirs, that he's just gonna appear over the wall in like 2 or 3 seconds, and your jungler's dead.
Yeah.
Or your bot lane gets dove with this star, pretty much, which takes up the whole of their turret space, and they can't move. Exactly, they can't move, and you can't even say I'm sorry in a way, because you don't know how it just got out of hand, because you just have to either fight him or run.
Yeah, and the problem is if you only run, he pushes you in so quickly that he has time to roam, and then with his flying spell, you can't really do much. Like, yeah, the thing is, you have to fight, not only because you can't outrun the balls, because if you don't, he pushes you in, and then he roams like a TF at level 6. He just flies away.
Yep.
Oh, I hate this champion so much.
And Katarina, oh my god, The thing is, Katarina for me is 100% ban worthy. But I never want to ban her just because of the fact that sometimes teammates are more, rage-induced by Shaco. But I am completely rage-induced by seeing a Katarina in my game, because I know at like level 1, she's got enough damage to, have a presence in lane.
Sure.
Level 2, she can completely kill me if I mess up, even in the slightest.
Yeah, that's the worst part. I mean, I don't know if she's overpowered. I honestly couldn't say. I just know that I have no clue how to play this lane. Even after watching some pros playing the lane, I still have... When I get to it, I still don't know, okay, I'm supposed to go forward into her every single time, but then she resets. It's the strangest thing. It's a similar principle to Aurelion Sol, but it's not as obnoxious with the you have to fight. It's just a similar thing where she has complete pressure in a way. I mean, you could make the same argument for Zed, but Zed at least has a 22-second cooldown on his W.
Yeah, there's window to abuse him.
Yeah.
honestly. There is window to abuse
I
it.
guess there's a window to abuse Katarina, but it's not a very big window. So,
Yes, it's not exactly a very big or noticeable window.
right.
So, say for example, okay, her dagger's on the floor, like next to you. You have to obviously back off, and in backing off, you can either lose CS or you have to walk up to her, and that's not exactly optimal. And all of these kind of things. It's just because of that dagger, it makes you position where you don't want to be.
Exactly. And I
And
think the main problem is just that the dagger pickup range is so big.
oh, huge!
It's gigantic.
Sometimes I'm completely safe from this. Even if she jumps to it, I'm not going to take damage. And I take a Thunderlord's proc, and I'm like, wait, hold on, wait, what? I was not in range of this thing.
Yeah, God.
It's such a big range that sometimes it's just. I played the matchup quite a few times, but I still don't have a definite. This is how to beat her.
Exactly.
Like my theory is survive till 6, and I should be fine.
That's probably the way. I mean, the one thing that I think is not very strong with her, I don't think her ultimate is that strong. It's very susceptible to CC.
Yeah.
And, I mean, yeah, it has damage potential, but it's very susceptible to CC. And it requires a bit of setup, and it requires a assassin to stand still in the middle of a team fight for a little bit. So I don't think that's that strong. It's just the consistency, the inability to run. And again, I don't think she's broken. I really don't. But I just have no clue how to.
A strong champion.
Yes. I mean, the same thing goes for Aurelion Sol. I really don't think Aurelion Sol is broken. It's such a frustrating matchup that I don't know how to deal with it. And I don't know. I mean, even I've gotten more used to playing. I've been playing Zed for 4 years at this point, kind of, and I've gotten more used to playing against tanks because, well, I play in top lane. So, and even then, I'm like, people say it's impossible to lane against like Malphite or Poppy or anything. It really isn't. There's so much. You have a lot of have a lot of lee room, I think.
Yeah, you can abuse them pretty much early.
Yeah.
Because, like, people forget. People, may say, it's tricky to lane against these people. But if you ever do a good enough combo and, trade them correctly, your passive will always put in a lot of work.
Yeah.
And a surprising amount to, like, the tank who's facing you. Because they're just thinking, oh, it's a Zed. Not much that he can do to me at this point. He has to have at least an item to be able to do damage, whatever.
Yeah.
But they forget his passive does a ridiculous amount of flat damage early on.
Exactly. And
So,
I mean,
yeah.
I've made a video on this actually, especially on how you can play against tanks. Especially Maokai has been the lane people say you can't win Maokai lane. Maokai is actually one of my favorite tank lanes to play Zed into, because especially around level 1, he has a difficulty getting close to the minions and actually getting them. And at that point, if you have been pushing a little bit, so you have a minion advantage, you can easily get Thunderlords. And as you said, every time, if you get your passive, that's a huge damage increase. I would even go so far as to say, yes, every time you get your passive, you win the trade. Especially against tanks, because it's such a big increase. It's percentage HP. And I think, as I recall, it's even percentage max HP. And it's magic damage. And they're going to build full armor against you. Because you're an AD assassin, but that passive and that Thunderlords, those magic damage sources are huge. So there are so many ways, especially with the fact that you push a little bit early game, you get a minion advantage, as in you have more minions than they have. So if they attack you, they also take a lot of damage from the minions. You have a good way of pushing because Q and E are very, very solid ways of pushing as long as you manage your energy correctly. And with the fact that E doesn't interrupt any animations, a Q into an auto attack that gets not interrupted by E is an instant Thunderlords. And usually at that point, people get too afraid to stay, even though they should be considering the fact that you have nothing left now. If you use Thunderlords, Q, E, and passive, well, I'm not sure what else you're going to do.
Yeah, I don't have any active items which I can, put on you at this point.
Or, God forbid, ultimate. But
yeah, exactly.
No, I think Zed's top lane is rather underrated. I mean, yeah, if they get an advantage, it's disgusting to play against a Poppy, but, if you do it correctly, I think it's still possible. Even though they have way more consistent damage than you, and usually way more sustain, you still have an edge and ranged poke and mobility, of course, so.
Yeah, course. And just sheer roam potential as well, because not a lot of top laners can roam down
Yeah, definitely.
effectively.
I mean, it's also tricky because I'm that kind of top laner. I also often run Ignite, which does hurt the roam a little bit, and the enemy team, or the allied team rather, gets usually rather angry when there's a TP Poppy from top lane, and I'm like, hey, I'm getting the farm here. Don't worry about it. I'm getting all these CS. Not gonna miss any. Oh, I missed one. Sorry. And then you're getting a push onto the turret. I mean, Zed is good at pushing turret too because you get a lot of AD. So that's
and
a good
split
compensation.
Pushing is honestly one of the greatest things to do on him, because like if somebody who you can 1v1 comes up, you kill them.
Yeah.
If somebody brings another person up, then you
Your
can probably
team
get
is-
one if one of them squishy.
Yeah. And
If
your
not, you
team
can
is
just run away.
4v3, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
If not,
a
you
simple
can-
principle
Yeah, it's
about
really good.
carrying. It's what I tell people all the time. How do I carry on Zed? Well, the easiest way is get under the. Okay, I mean, every single person had told me that they always win lane, but their team always feeds. Which, okay, sure. Let's go with that if that's actually true.
Exactly.
If that's actually true, then yeah, if you split push, and you're that good because you always win lanes, you got to be really good, right? Your mechanics are on point, solid. You're basically Faker incarnate. You can handle one top laner. And if it's very tanky, then yeah, pick up Last Whisper, Black Cleaver, you're fine. And if it's two people, then yeah, maybe your team is as bad as you say, but they not every team can be bad enough to lose 4v3 every single time.
Every single
That's
time,
not
yeah,
possible, especially
every
considering
single time.
one of those three people is going to be a support, meaning you have two damage dealers at most.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't really buy the whole I always win lane thing, but if that's always the case, then yeah, split push, and if it's one person split pushing, kill them because your mechanics are on point, and then push turret, force someone else to come there. Your team has the open choice for Baron or Dragon or bot lane, and if it's two people, well, if you're still Faker Incarnate, kill both of them and keep pushing. But if you're immortal, like the rest of us, then you delay, potentially trade 1-for-1, while your team goes 4v3. And split pushing isn't that difficult, as long as you have a single pink ward at a strategic place.
A pink ward and wards deep in the river and stuff. When green wards were around, they were actually my favorite thing, because one of my biggest problems is just I'm aware of the map, but I'm not aware of like their jungler a lot of the time. So sometimes like in the early game, I kind of know the jungle route, so I'll path towards the correct side of the lane, as to not get ganked. But after about the 7-minute point, I'm hopeless. I don't know where he is. So I used to love getting green wards and putting them deep in like entry paths of his jungle, and if I ever spotted him, then I'd just be like, okay, good, I know what I can do from here. But when they removed that, I started buying blue trinket a lot to compensate for my weakness.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, after a while, after getting into it a bit, I started buying red trinket because obviously I'd prefer roaming over, kind of being surprised by their jungler a little bit. But
no, I definitely get you. I think it's a big mistake of them to remove green wards. I loved green wards. It was such an interesting aspect of it because, I mean, yeah, pink wards, sure. I mean, now that pink wards are visible though, because back in the day, it was 125 gold for an invisible pink ward, which, holy crap, that was broken. Why didn't we buy more of those? But I don't know. I think it really ruined a bit of the strategic part because now you have to buy a Sightstone, which, I mean, I have a friend who buys Sightstone on Talon because she thinks that even if it's solo queue, so no matter what champion, wards are going to help anyway, and I'm not sure if I 100% agree with it, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt with a couple extra wards and a little bit of survivability. But on the topic of the jungler and mining the jungler, especially early game, the easiest way of doing it I've found, especially if you're lazy like I am and you don't even play much jungle, the best way of doing it is first of all memorizing around what time they gank, which is I guess not the lazy way of doing it, but that's a good way if you don't really care about the jungling at all. Memorize around the time when you get ganked. So that also helps you because then you realize what your weaknesses are, like what they capitalize on, and usually when junglers gank overall. The second way of doing it, and this is the best way of doing it, in my opinion, is looking at your jungler. Where is my jungler right now? That's and then flip that, make the mirror of that. That's
Yeah,
where their
make a
junglers
mirror,
is.
probably.
Yeah. So then you get an indication like, okay, my jungler's cleared the like one camp after his second buff. So yeah, they might be ganking around now or very soon. To at least get like a quick idea of where they are.
I used to love when the meta for jungle was, when before this whole, they brought in 1,000,000 camps which you could farm, and all of this kind of stuff, so you could farm and simultaneously gank without losing too much. I used to love it when the junglers were either a farm heavy, gank at 6, or just he's gonna try gank every single lane.
Yeah.
Because if you ever went up against the jungler who tries to gank every single lane, you at least knew where he was most of the time.
Yeah.
In one of the lanes. And if it was a farm till 6 jungler, you were just like, oh, I don't need to worry about anything because I'm only gonna get ganked to 6. And normally it's bot lane.
Are there even, I guess I'm speaking from extreme ignorance right now because I never play jungle, but are there even many farm junglers around? Because I don't see many of them in my games.
Honestly, I think farming jungle like champions is probably exclusive only to Shyvana anymore.
Yeah, that's the only one I could think of as well. Yeah. The old Warwick, sure, but we don't have the old Warwick anymore.
The old Warwick turned into this new behemoth, which I'm afraid of every time I hear a
oh god,
sound. Oh my god, that sound just makes me go, oh no, he's coming for me.
Going back to the green word thing also, it was so interesting because I was watching Bjergsen, because back in the day I used to watch Bjergsen all the time to improve, and I occasionally go back and watch him again. But what he did because he was getting camped by Evelyn, was he went to her camps and warded the camps with like 3 different green wards. It was so fascinating to watch because I had always had problems with Evelyn. Like, how do you even ward against that? Especially now, how do you ward against that? She walks past the pink wards.
I used to have a really cheesy trick.
Yeah.
I used to buy green wards, obviously, and put them deep into the jungle.
Mm-hmm.
Near her camps and stuff when I possibly could. But I used to always just put a pink wood like behind me. Just like behind me, just in lane.
Yeah.
Just sitting there. Just if I saw her, I just W away and hopefully get out.
Yeah.
That was like my best like idea at stopping Evelyn ever.
It can't work. You'd have to play super aggressive to like maintain the pink ward and not let it die.
Yeah.
You have to like push all the time. It's the same principle in top lane where it's the fight for the river brush. If you're pushing, you have control of the river brush. You can place the pink ward. I see people doing that sometimes. They get a pink ward, they place it, they get pushed in, then it get cleared, and it's kind of pointless. Like, yeah, I guess. You saw the like 30 seconds of nothing. You definitely did see it, but I guess the idea with the pink ward is you're saying that you're going to have control of the lane, or at least if you're on red side, that you're going to place it in tri-brush, and you're at least not going to get pushed into turret, because at that point they can go and clear it as well. So it's implying some kind of dominance. Not as much with mid lane, because mid lane usually wards to the right side, to the bot side. Around Dragon there's a single brush, I don't know what it's called, but it's a single brush there. It's the most common place for pink wards, and like right above it, because you get full vision of that part of the river, which is a common gank place, and above all, it's a common place for roaming. But it doesn't imply that same like dominance that top lanes does, like where you're saying this pink ward implies that I'm going to be pushing, and it's just a safety net. So it's interesting how that synergy goes with mid lane, because they still have every chance to like go and clear it, but it's not as essential in a way.
Top lane, when it comes to top lane and wards, it's like, obviously, there's the stereotypical, oh, it's just a wet noodle fight up there, but no, it's really
not anymore.
It's a battle of the bullies, to be honest. It's whoever has like the most jungle presence or the most lane presence is probably gonna come out like a monster in team fights.
Yeah, for sure.
Because of the fact that, if say, for example, you have a Fiora versus, let's say, old school Poppy, right? Poppy evolved. If you have a Fiora versus a Poppy, if that Fiora has Poppy under a tower, pushed in, all that kind of stuff, Fiora 9 times out of 10 is going to be a monster.
Definitely.
And vice versa. the whole control part and the like river aspect, like a lot of the time when top laners bounce their wave, they normally would roam to get the scuttle crab, and if the scuttle crab had been taken, they know that the jungler was there in the last like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And if the scuttle crab was up, then they'd either be able to contest the opponent jungler to a 1v1 if he came for the scuttle crab as well,
Yeah.
or they would just be able to take it, have
And
that
then have
ward,
vision, yeah.
have a pink ward or like a normal ward in their tri-bush, and then just, you know, not have to worry about being ganked ever.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's a very safe way of doing it, which is... Again, top lane is just so much about dominance and about getting that control, because even then, I mean, the nature of top lane is like you can dive a lot more than you can mid lane, because mid lane usually has to be a lot quicker, but top lane you have 1 or 2 bruisers or even tanks, so even you're not even that safe at the turret, especially if you're already getting pushed in and you have to take damage while farming. So, I don't know, top lane is kind of brutal, the times I played it.
Very brutal. Top lane is a very brutal lane. I don't play much top myself, but I have a lot of friends who play top a lot of the time, and 9 times out of 10, if first blood goes to them, they normally take the lane.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of feel that way in mid lane about some matchups, but I never felt it as destructively as top lane. Like, if you lose that first blood, first of all, it's such a long commute to get to top lane. And especially, it's the worst thing is if you get early ganked like 3 times and you're running Ignite, and then you lose like a huge wave.
Huge minion wave.
Yeah, and then it gets pushed, like it resets at turret, and you get a slight push going towards them that then gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they can zone, they can freeze that just outside of turret range, and you don't have TP, and you already lost once, so you can't really fight with them, and if you do, well, the jungler's gonna come around again because he already got you flash, and you don't have TP. I never felt that way in mid lane, where it's like, okay, well, I lost 1 kill. Everything is completely fucked now.
Everything's over. Yeah.
Yeah. Even though, like, yeah, I'm gonna lose my trades. Fuck, he's gonna have seekers. It's gonna be really bad. But I never felt that like everything is over, because even then I could always go to wraiths. I could always roam. But top lane, you're alone. There's no camps to go get. There's no one who's gonna help you. There's no roaming bot lane. You're all alone. And if you get fucked by the top lane and the jungler, I don't know, dude. It's awful.
Yeah, it's completely brutal, because I remember once, I think I went 1 kill down because, you know, Rengar, bushes, beautiful champion.
Fun times.
Yeah, so he literally sat in the bush waiting for me to return to lane.
Yeah.
Right, I just got pushed out of lane, you know, TP'd back, everything's fine. He was in the bush. I died, and I returned to lane, and the lane was pushing to him. I returned with 20 CS, and he had like 56. And lane was over for me. Yeah. I think I told my jungler, I was just like, okay, jungler, stick to your bot side. I'm taking your top side camps and roaming mid when I can, because this guy has frozen me completely.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only way to really do it. But that's actually, I wanted to, as a good tangent actually to the final topic then, morale and something else that they announced recently, TeamSpeak, or like voice chat. I'm super excited about voice chat.
In all honesty, I've wanted voice chat in League for ages.
Yeah, and I was so surprised. I made a video, I don't know when this video is going to come up, but I made a video like the 31st of March talking about voice chat and how excited I was about them. Potentially, they said they've kind of reviewed what they said before about, oh, it's going to increase toxicity and we don't want that, and I'm kind of, okay, it's pretty much going to do the opposite, and I got so many comments saying it's going to be the worst thing, it's going to be end of league, it's going to be like hell freezing over, and I'm not even like rephrasing that. Literally, I got comments like that, and I don't, I mean, first of all, the first solution that solves everything, opt in. If you don't want voice chat, if you don't have a microphone, you don't want to listen to people, there's like the default choice isn't voice chat.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I don't see how voice chat could be so detrimental, because in all honesty, in terms of fixing toxicity, I genuinely think it would be a great fix to it.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that it's a lot easier to just, slap your keyboard going, I hate you. Da-da-da-da-da, you just messed up my whole lane. Da-da-da-da, all this kind of stuff. Like it's much easier to do that to somebody you can't hear and who can't like tell you to shut up back.
Exactly.
Because if, say, for example, there's the stereotype of all of these flamers are just, little kids, blah, 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 right? But sometimes, say, for example, someone flames you and they genuinely are, like, younger than you or, smaller, whatever, this kind of thing. If they try to, say something rude to you in voice chat, you can just be like, look, it wasn't my fault. This happened. Stop talking. Thank you.
Exactly.
Like, it's a lot easier to mitigate any kind of trouble there and then, because of the fact that, you have to talk to the other person. And even in the case where, someone doesn't have a mic and someone can't respond, at least they can hear stuff, key information like mids flashes down.
Exactly. There are so many arguments for voice chat. Like, first of all, you don't waste time typing and dying for it.
Yeah.
It's like the worst thing where someone says something that's blatantly wrong and like just inherently wrong, like, why didn't you ping? Yeah. When I literally pinged like 5 times and he went through a word. Like, you want to say that, but you don't really want to stop and type. I know I type fairly quickly, right? But I don't really want to stop and type because then he's going to stop and type and then I'm going to stop and type. But if you can just explain that I had a word right there and I pinged it, or even I said it because we have voice chat,
exactly.
And then you have 5 more people. Even further on, most people. Okay, I know EU West is kind of crazy, so I'm sure high elo EU West would still be kind of like a lot of people who like relish in flaming and they like flaming and such. But first of all, most people who flame don't have the balls to actually do it over voice.
Oh yeah, definitely not.
Like, especially in other games, you see people like, whenever they start, they speak on voice, but then when something goes wrong, they start like typing it because they don't really have the balls or like the charisma or like the authority to like genuinely tell someone to kill themselves or something. They don't really have that. Like, not everyone is Destiny, right? So it's, I don't know. I just can't see the main issues with it. The only argument I could see that I can't, and I also brought this up in a video, the only argument I see that I can't really say anything about is maybe it's worse for girls, because surprisingly I'm not actually a girl. I can see how
I can see how it would be a lot worse for girls, because obviously, the whole... I think I've had games where a girl's been mentioned in chat and people are like, girl, what girl? It's like,
yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's shit posting, like it's ironic, but it's
ironic,
still shit posting. So
it's still honestly, I feel like there could be some kind of prejudice there, but less so, because if anyone else who has any respect for women isn't that cool as well, he can just tell the person to stop behaving like a kid and shut up.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is then, and I've run into this so many fucking times, is then you're a white knight, my friend. If you ever say anything good about women, you're a white knight.
Oh god.
And it's one of those, oh man, I don't wanna go on a huge tangent there, but it's one of those annoying, like, instantly shut down people, like calling someone a racist. That's like, instantly shut down, you can't say anything now. Let's not teabag that beehive right now. I want to stick to voice chat. So
yeah, voice. The one thing I think which will be perfect from introducing voice chat is genuine shot calling.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, I've never seen in chat someone go, okay, we're gonna rotate mid, and then after mid we're gonna rotate top and blah blah blah. I've never seen that.
I mean, you can see that, but it never happens because you don't really.
It never happens.
Yeah.
If there's one person who can commandeering the shot calling in that game, so say for example, people are going, oh, Dragon, you can go, no, 2 mid towers is more valuable. Let's go mid, please.
Yeah.
Like, something like that is just so much more valuable to an actual competitive game, in a sense, than just having to stop, type it out, spend about 3 seconds typing, and 3 seconds in League is a long time, as we can, call from Morgana binding, right?
Yes.
3 seconds is a long time.
It's a long fucking time, yeah.
So, it would help in the sense that it would just make everybody able to, like establish their points better. It would, even if people, struggle with English because it may not be their mother language, or
Yeah.
it would still people would still have a common understanding, at least.
Exactly. I mean, I think one of the other really great things is that a general consensus. You understand if someone says Baron, someone says Dragon, and someone says turrets in chat. You don't know if someone agreed suddenly and changed. Oh yeah, maybe we should actually do that. In voice, if the final person says Dragon, 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 let's all go Dragon, and then everyone else is quiet, then you realize that yeah, let's go Dragon.
Yeah, let's go Dragon.
It's a common understanding. But in voice, or in chat, you don't really know if someone's about to type something or is trying to formulate something, or it's all so unclear and so irritating that I don't know. And things like mid flash, things like he's going bot lane right now, even because people miss those fucking 3,000 pings.
3,000 pings, even the red danger pings posted on top of their heads. Yes, they missed them. It's just...
And then they say, well, why didn't you call miss?
I hate the argument people present in chat, like, why didn't you just follow? Well, let me explain as to why I didn't just follow.
Do you want the cliff notes or do you want the long version?
Exactly.
And you could actually say that. You can actually say that. He's going bot, but I can't follow. I'm pushed on the turret. So care. It's harder to type that, because type that and ping, and you have to last it at the same time.
And ping, and make sure they understand that the guy is missing at that specific moment in time. It's hard to do.
I think we'd get a completely different game. Like, roaming might get, significantly weaker.
Oh yeah, roaming would be, roaming to a coordinated team, teams who are actually, not, arguing or whatever, and actually, using the voice comm the way it's intended to be used. Roaming would be a lot harder to pull off, because if you've noticed, the higher up elo you go, roaming becomes harder. Now, imagine the higher up you go with the more amount of communication you have.
Sure.
It's just, it adds that level of, it's going to be increasingly harder and harder the better players get to understand this guy's coming, maybe we should back off or play a different style.
Exactly. I think there's also something worth noting is also that it gives more, it requires more skill in a way, because it requires you to properly shove out, properly get out of vision.
Yeah.
Because if I say, oh, I'm pushed in and he's missing, that's not the same way of saying, because if I always say both top lane and bot lane, go back right now, he's missing, then they're going to lose pressure. So it's a way of always creating pressure. So yeah, I think roaming would get weaker, but it would still be a legitimate thing to do, but you just require a little bit more skill to pull it off properly, I guess. But in general, I cannot see how an opt-in voice chat would be worse in any way. Toxicity getting worse, I don't know how. I think people would get less toxic, especially since. First of all, like I said, people who flame usually don't want to open the mic. Like I said, there are people in the West who are very proud of their flaming, who definitely do it. But also, I mean, if you hear a 14-year-old flame, you can't really take it seriously. If he tells you to slit your wrists or whatever, I couldn't. If it's someone who's in puberty trying to say that, I don't know. It would be really hard to take it seriously, I think. But I don't know. I just can't see it, especially opt-in. Opt-in, if you don't want to do it, you don't join the voice chat, right? And if there's someone flaming you, you can mute them, just like previously.
Exactly.
And I mean, if we're expanding on that, please make it so you can mute one person's pings. I don't know why we don't have that. We used to have that, Season 2 or something. We don't have it anymore.
There was a lot of things. I wasn't around in Season 2, but there was a lot of things that apparently changed, muting pings, as you said. One other thing was, being able to see someone's current connection, ping and stuff.
Yeah.
There was a lot of loopholes, which, obviously there are reasons to patch these loopholes up, because, then it allows you to, have a more smooth game. But I definitely do agree with the whole muting the one person's pings, because we've all been in the game with that one guy who died to your laner when you pinged it or something, or you told him, whatever.
Yeah, and he pings him every
that
time.
One time, and I don't know why, but it's like a universal code. Always use the SS one.
Yeah.
The one to signal people are missing. What?
It's because it's the question mark. Like, because
Yeah,
question mark has been a thing for forever, but I don't know that it's so irritating because I think it would help. The thing is, I get irritated by toxicity, not because my feelings are hurt specifically. I mean, it happens. You know, I'm a real person. Actually, I have feelings, so remember that in the Twitch and YouTube comments. But it is, it's the fact that it fucks the morale completely when someone is flaming. But if it was over voice, it's easier to hear that the rest of the people in the voice chat isn't upset with you. So, for example, there's one person, if one person dies like 3 times in lane, he fucked up, he didn't even get ganked, he just fucked up, and one person is flaming him, and the rest of people aren't really flaming him, they aren't really saying anything, then that could sound like a silent agreement with the flame. But if it's our voice chat, you can just say, don't worry about it, we'll get a late game. And if everyone has that mentality, no problem, dude. We can get back from a fucking 10 kill deficit, that's no problem. But if the morale is already fucked, then it's whatever. Yeah. That's why I hate people who say, just mute. Just mute, it's going to solve everything. It doesn't solve anything. The only thing it solves is my feelings don't get hurt. Which, I mean, that's a benefit, but I don't know.
There is one thing about, like, morale in, like, team games as well. Because of the fact that, you know, say, for example, the scenario you presented, one person's doing bad. It's not that they, you know, like, had the, you know, like the guy sit in his lane or whatever, he just messed up. He has not got the luck today. He's not playing on form. You know, someone's flaming him, like, which typically happens in solo queue, and then the other people are just being silent, right? Yeah. Of course, the other people are probably thinking, you know, like you could just try to stop, right? But they're not, you know, actually actively trying to attack him.
Yeah,
it's just like, I feel the more that toxicity happens in the chat and the more people can read and see this, and, you know, it's the more frustrated the person who's doing bad is going to feel, because he's going to start retaliating, saying stuff to the guy who's probably flaming him.
Yeah, and then you have 2 people wasting their time. And then...
Yeah, you have 2 people arguing, and then that argument kicks you off, right? Let's say, for example, it kicks you off, and then you say, "Can you please shut up?" And then it just becomes, you know, like this snowball effect of just like everybody's annoyed now.
Yeah.
Whereas in, say, for example, voice comm, you know, someone messes up. At least if someone messes up, but they're playing a useful champion, people can say, "Don't worry about it," and then we can still like make legitimate like calls in fights.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like, "Oh, I can't make it to this fight. We don't have TP. My top lane has TP," or something like that. Or like the AD's doing bad, and he's just like, "I just need to farm the side lanes. Can you guys stall the game for me?" You know, stuff like that. It makes it a lot easier to be able to just make the game work as a whole, because you can convey your intentions to your team, so your team doesn't, like, you know, take a fight without you when, like, say, for example, they may have needed you, or like you weren't there or something.
So I think the only good argument, like I said, aside from the girl thing, the only good argument is that it's way harder to police voice chat, because then you'd need to like save all of the voice data. Like right now you can just say, "Oh, Riot banned me unfairly because I got so many reports," and then they look at your voice or like chat history and it's all a bunch of racial slurs or whatever. But it's I guess it's a bit more difficult with voice chat, but it doesn't, considering they can save replays, I don't think it should be that difficult to save like MP3 files. I don't know though, like specifically for like, if someone gets reported that game, that MP3 file gets saved for them specifically. That can't be that can't be that much data to store, and then like periodically it gets flushed. But that's one of the, I guess, good arguments. Even still, like, finding a solution to that would be worth the trouble, definitely. And especially, dude, it could be like a lot of fun too with voice chat, like talking to people and meeting new people, and like.
Of course.
So, I don't know. I can't see the arguments against it outweighing the arguments for it. It's not even the same, like, universe.
There is one thing, though. I do think reports could actually probably go down, because, you know, if the whole report system is you report somebody because they've been, like, normally you should report someone because they're not just like toxic, they're genuinely like a bad person. Say, for example, they comment on race, or, they make an actual very inappropriate joke or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
You normally want to like report them for that. You normally report them for, refusing to cooperate, stuff like that.
Yeah, they intentionally feeding or whatever,
Yeah, actual reasons, right? But if it's just an argument between two people and it's just over one situation, then I think there would genuinely be less incentive to report, because you'd have that argument out of the way.
Yeah.
Because you'd have at least been able to, like, argue it out, even if it's like not even logical arguing, even if it's just, shouting at each other.
Of course.
At least you'd have got that frustration out. So
yeah, because that's also a pent up thing there, where you get no release for all that anger. You sit in a 50, 60, 70-minute game with all that adrenaline and anger, and then someone says something that's just blatantly wrong, blaming you for the entire thing. Like, there's no way to convey that anger via messages.
By messaging.
And I mean, I've said it before that I don't have inherent problems with people raging after the game. I'm not really for raging overall. I think if you're gonna rage, do it verbally, like do it in like not connected to other people, just fucking yell at your wall or something. I do it occasionally at stream. But I don't know. That frustration doesn't get an outlet the same way without voice. And I think if you can, at least if you have the discussion, it's also easier not to get into those situations where one person gets blamed because you can't explain your situation. And maybe that would also discourage people from trying to get those, like, oh, it's all your fault, because now someone can call you out on it more efficiently.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Either way, I think we'll have to wait and see what to do. I sincerely hope they implement voice chat, because it's going to be such a good addition to the game. But
it would be a good addition, like, completely. I agree. There was one instance where it just showed me like the complete use of voice chat, and it was me and my friends were playing in a game. We had voice chat. Discord one day decided to just have a problem, so we're all on Discord. We're all in the lobby. We're all talking, and this is like the first 3 minutes of the game. So the game's just kind of started, and communication was lost, and we were against another team of 5, and it just goes to show, like, us when we played without communication, we looked like a genuine solo queue team.
Yeah, of course.
No one knew what we were doing at all at any given stage, right? And they were all coordinated, and they were playing better than us, just completely.
Yeah, of course.
Next game, we got voice come back, and we played against another 5, and we played smoothly, and we won. So it's just the whole, even though we've played together a lot of the time, it just goes to show that voice comm can change a game completely because of the fact that you're at least able to, communicate.
Yeah, definitely. It becomes a completely different game. And I've had so many fun experiences with voice comms. I mean, people could say, well, why don't you just play ranked 5s instead? But I don't think that's a really good argument, honestly.
Yeah, that's not a good argument, because sometimes you just want to go into solo queue and just play solo queue.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we'll change the game for the worse. I sincerely doubt it. Especially since no one is talking about like the gameplay aspects of it. So I think everyone's on board on the fact that it would improve the gameplay. Everyone's talking about toxicity. I'm like, I guess one of the biggest arguments I have for this is the fact that Dota, CSGO, Overwatch, like all these games functionally have voice chat.
Yeah, they do.
It's easy to point at like a boogeyman or find a new fictional problem for it. But how can these games consistently... You could say, well, because Overwatch and CSGO, they have short rounds and they have a gameplay that isn't snowbally, so it's not like in CSGO you can always catch up, right? You can save money for a couple of rounds and then you're equally strong. Or in Overwatch, you never really lose strength. Everyone is already like always equally powerful. The character is always equally powerful because they always have the same guns and stuff. And worst case, the games last like not 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So you're not stuck with the same people for like an hour. where you have to listen to like read the same bullshit over and over again, right? So
Yeah.
I guess the comparison would be like, sure, it could work there because the rounds are short, but why does it work in Dota then? Because Dota is the same principle as League. It's a MOBA,
Yeah,
just the
it's
same
just the
way.
same.
So
Yeah.
why does it
Same
work?
fucking-
It does work there. So the game hasn't fallen apart. It's not World War III because they have voice chat. So all these exaggerations are crazy, in my opinion, because it's been proven to work. So I don't know. An opt-in system, I cannot see it being that bad as people are saying it will be. So, but I mean, we'll see what they do. Maybe this is another thing they say they will do, but it doesn't happen. But they have killed the memes. They fixed replays. They fixed the client. They fixed
Oh yeah.
so many things that people have been saying, and they fixed sandbox mode and everything. So
Yeah, they did bring a lot of stuff in which was asked for. So credit goes to Riot. They do take on board consideration, you know, and like the community like opinion and all this kind of stuff.
yeah, a lot more so recently. I think they
Yeah.
really went in for it recently, and I'm really glad to see that. So I really hope that they did say that they had reconsidered their voice chat, so their opinions of voice chat. So I really hope that it's going to happen, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. I mean, anything's possible, and maybe it will be World War III. I cannot see it coming. I just can't see where people are why people are so behemothly against it. But hey, maybe the community is that bad. I don't think it could be. I don't think it could be a like worse state. Like I don't think it could ruin something just by giving an extra feature that's something you don't even have to use. It's the same where it would be more toxic with the sandbox mode because then you would only be practicing in sandbox mode and never in actual games. And you know what happened with sandbox mode? People played it for a week and was like, "Oh, this is fun," and then it was used for practicing flashes, which happens very seldom. Like, yeah, it was good. It's needed. It's good. Now you can see. Okay, so wait, how does actually Aurelion Sol's balls work, or how does actually like Victor's laser? How do I aim with it, and anything like that? And you don't have to
combo
wait.
cancels and stuff.
Yeah, dude, I was practicing Yasuo's EQ flash,
Oh, the EQ flash.
and I was practicing that when there was a 5-minute cooldown on flash.
Oof.
And you missed that twice in a row, and you're like, oh, fuck me, I guess I have to wait 5 more minutes, and then and then practice mode I could just do it over and over and over again. It was a lot of fun. But
I used practice mode to practice the GP barrel trick where you like place one down, shoot it,
yeah,
and
it's so good.
like shot, yeah, you have to make another one spawn.
But yeah, we're over 1 hour right now, so I think I'm gonna round it off here. Anything closing to say on lethality? I mean, I think we've talked about most things, most general topics about it, and like the tank meta in general.
No really closing remarks, bar the fact that it was just very efficient for what it was. It had the strength of like these 3 items provided the strength of like 4 previous items in a build, and it just, even though they went and like made it to snowball onto like opponents, it scaled with the opponent's level, so even if like you were behind, it was still efficient.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the core of it, and I guess we'll see how it transforms from here. I think it's in an interesting spot right now, especially like I said, Duskblade is such a fun item, but you know, we'll see what happens. Maybe they'll add even a new lethality items, who knows? I don't think they would, but
I highly doubt it.
hey, maybe. Anyway, thanks for coming on. It was a lot of fun, and
My pleasure.
yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you all next time. Peace.